Welcome to day 4 of Vlog Week, the week where I do a vlog every day, all week. This time I'm going to be talking about an interesting conversation that I've had coming up recently as I've been talking to some of my online friends who told me that they do not like IRL interactions at all. They pretty much have all of their interactions on the internet. And while that was mostly true for me for a long time, it's never been completely true for me because until I've basically never lived alone at all. Even though I had my own big ass room in my parents' house that was fairly isolated, I don't think a day almost ever went by that I never encountered anyone or made even a point to encounter anyone. I would pretty regularly go to either of my brother's rooms to try to bother them, or, say hi to my mom if she was up at a time when I, at her computer or something. Generally, these were people I could do things with if I wanted to do something. They weren't always none of us were necessarily always interested in doing anything, but we would do things just to have an excuse to do something with someone, And so for me, having personal interactions with people who I can get something out of just looking at or touching or doing something with or going someplace and having real world memories is a valuable thing to me, just in that it's something I'm used to and have always had, and while I have had internet interactions as well, even though I grew up on the internet, it wasn't necessarily because it went well. For me, I started using the internet when I was 11, in a serious way. I've been using the internet since I was 5, because my parents happened to have a computer in the 90s, but using it the way that I think of it, going on forums and talking to people and being socially involved in the internet, I guess is what I mean. I started when I was 11 in 2001 or 2002. So using Yu-Gi-Oh forums, and throughout my come up on the internet, it wasn't really until I was 15 that I started to be more of a person, not so much just a random commenter on message boards, but somebody who is putting forth a personality, who is identifiable, who has a definitional writing style and stuff like that, not to say that I was popular or anything like that, just that I am a recognizable person, and who that person is continually shifted as the years went on, in response to the fact that I was never really accepted in these communities, because for the most part, I was talking on forums where most of the people are much older than me, where I was 15. Mostly these were 18 to 23, 25-year-olds, some of them in their 30s, some older people who are usually more patient than the people who are in their late teens, early 20s, who were usually really harsh on me, for being just a fucking autist in general, not that we didn't really have that word when I was growing up on the internet, but that would be the proper way to describe my behavior growing up. And so I wasn't respected or treated well on the internet for the first 10 years of being there, it was only when I was 21 and became famous that people started treating me differently. But at the same time, I've always been controversial, for one reason or another. I've given plenty of reasons, over the years, but I've never been somebody who was universally or praised, and it was only when I got really significantly popular that I could start to look at it wow, I cannot convince myself that I don't that I'm just some autist, basically, I clearly have some kind of charisma, some kind of ability to communicate and tell stories and reach people, and I get lots and lots of fan mail and fan art and stuff that tells me that people are connecting with it. I mean, even just the fact that I make most of my money through Patreon and not through advertising, says a lot about the way that my content reaches people. Even if it might be fewer, it seems like I hit people in a really deep way, you know, in a way that like I didn't think I could, because my work doesn't feel as deep to me as the stuff that I connect with, you know, because it's coming out of me. So it all feels like kind of self-evident or obvious because it's stuff that I've just already thought about. You know, unless like my best writing comes, I guess my best vlogs as well come out of like the process of generating what I'm trying to say, leading to good results. You know, like if I say a really cool sounding sentence or write a really cool sounding sentence, that has like its own kind of fun to it that I couldn't predict. You know, you can't like think about making a good sentence. It just happens. That was a decent one right there. So in light of all that, people get a lot out of watching my content, consuming that media, but all of that comes out of like a hyper condensed version of myself that, like, you know, I'm not like on like this all the time. I'm not just I'm not sitting in front of a camera talking at it all day, every day. And while I do have lots of long and winding conversations with people, especially if that's like what we're doing to hang out, you know, I'm actually kind of trying to cut down on how much talking I do just in general, just because, like, I guess this will help me to get into why I prefer IRL communication, is that I don't like all of the abstraction layers that come from getting you further and further from communicating with somebody who is literally in front of you, who you know exactly what their reactions are, where like I can see if your facial expression doesn't match what you're saying, and even if I'm kind of too autistic to always register it, or I will take people at their word even if I feel suspicious about the way that they're acting, you know, like, it still at least helps for me to be able to remember that I saw that, you know, to be able to communicate with people in a way where I can read their, you know, their response more effectively. And like, you know, it just feels like there's a lot that's lost in not being able to see the person you're talking to. And for me, like, so, okay, I almost never do calls on the internet. I hate doing calls, and it's because if I am not visually engaged while I'm talking to somebody, then every lull in the conversation, I am going to check out. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm still talking to somebody when I go quiet and I'm just looking at a computer screen, you know? Like, so I innately will start doing other things. I'll just start checking Twitter, or I'll start, you know, reading other stuff on Discord, or doing whatever. Like, I will disengage with the conversation unless it is constantly engaging. And that's why I almost only talk to people through podcasts, because a podcast is a circumstance in which you are challenged to be constantly engaging, and thus you have the most interesting conversations. But like, it's very hard to feel the immediate benefit of like sitting down with someone and just having 2 hours of cool conversation, like on purpose, you know, like, I mean, you normally go out to dinner or something to like have an excuse to do that, or like go, I don't know, walk in the park or find some reason that you can have a conversation with somebody. But like literally penning them into your schedule as part of your job is a very easy way to get that done, you know? But even then, again, like, while intense and engaging conversations over, you know, Discord can be fun, especially in the context of doing a show, like, you can also do that stuff in person, and it's even more fun and even better and faster. There's no latency. There's no interrupting each other. You know, there's no having to guess what the person's expression is. And even like a show like The Dick Show, for instance, every episode of that has a live, you know, video recording. And ever since I started watching it that way, like early on into the Patreon's existence, like, I've not been able to go back. Like, I can listen to it, obviously, like if I'm in the car or something and can't watch the video, but like, it adds so much especially to a comedy show where, there's a lot of satire and a lot of, double meanings and double entendre, and the Dick's a very animated person, and like seeing his face and gestures made me understand him so much more, to where like, I had never really got what he was really about or like while listening to the old show, because again, there's so much satire, there's so much deliberate obfuscation that when you see the person's face doesn't have the same effect on you, so yeah, like even like video is limited compared to like direct person-to-person conversation, because there's the awkwardness of like the inability to move around. And if you may have noticed that I constantly shake my legs. I don't know if I don't know any research on restless leg syndrome, or I haven't been diagnosed with that or anything, but people make fun of me and say that I have it because I'm always shaking my legs and getting up and walking around. And like the reason I shake my legs when I'm sitting down and talking is because normally I would pace around and talk. In real life, I walk back and forth when I talk to people at length, and it's because like it's easier to keep my train of thought if I occupy my body enough that like that I won't get distracted by something else. I won't like forget what I'm doing or saying. It feels like I'm in a consistent state of motion. I'm shaking my legs right now, if you can't tell. For me, it's really uncomfortable to like feel as though I'm trapped in a conversation situation where like normally if there's a lull in the conversation, I'm going to go do something else, like moving about my house. I might head into, like, in my current living situation, having Riley, Ari, and Mint living here. Like, Ari and Mint are not as likely to, like, just start up a conversation out of nowhere. Or more likely to be like, hey, what are you up to? Oh, I'm making food. I'm drawing a picture. I'm, like, doing something. Riley, I might walk to the living room. He might be like, yo, I just like had this idea for a rap song, or I made all these tracks and stuff, and we'll have a conversation about that, right? And then as soon as that conversation's over, I just move into the next room and go do the next thing that I want to do, Maybe that conversation ends up sprawling out and we talk about all kinds of shit and it goes on for hours, but like that just would either happen or it doesn't. If you sit down to be in a call with somebody, then it's like either you are listening to lots of dead air, or you are, like, you are the one who's like out, up and about. I don't know. I don't know how other people act during their calls, because for me, like, if I'm like doing other stuff, then I'm going to forget I'm in a call. I'm going to stop paying attention. I'm going to be like, if I'm like trying to work or something, then that's going to consume all of my mind. I can't really like have conversations and do work at the same time, So, I don't know. Maybe I just need more scheduled social interaction in my life. But like, I prefer to just have people around to do my interactions with, If there's somebody there who I can just spit all my ideas at to get them out of my head, then, great. And I used to use the internet for that, once I had a partner that I could talk to them instead. I try to have friends around who I can share the things I think about with, because they'll have any idea what I'm talking about. And if they don't, I'll gladly educate them so that they do, but I would just prefer to do it in person, because I'm going to give you more complete information. I'm going to be able to pace myself, really think about what I'm saying, not feel pressured to close any silence or to remain still, or, any of and like even going beyond like audio communication on the internet. Like text communication is so abstract that it's like I can only look at people who I talk to primarily through text as like semi-real until I hear their voice. And it changes my perspective on people dramatically when I do actually hear them talk. Like, I've had lots of people where, like, once they speak, then it closes the gap for me between who they really are and who they are pretending to be, because both of those are always apparent to some degree in anything you write. And not even what you're pretending to be, but like what you see yourself as, like what your inner voice considers you to be, you know? So like being able for me to like bridge that gap between like, okay, here's the voice that's coming out of this person when they type this, you know, helps for me a lot in like getting what they're about. So like it does help to hear people's voice. It helps even more to meet them in person, you know, and then like attach that to everything. But even still, so much is lost in text. No tone, no like nuance, you know, like I use a lot of punctuation and sentence structure to try to make my sentences as clear as fucking possible, and I'm still constantly misunderstood. I'm misunderstood even through vlogs, you know? People who meet me in person are usually surprised by some aspect of me, usually just how relaxed and quiet I am compared to, you know, the fact that, again, if you're encountering me on the internet, it's just going to be only when I am talking. So just imagine that, like, imagine that at all times that you're not seeing one of my videos, I was just sitting next to you in the same spot quietly. And that would be like, you know, closer to the real experience than imagining that I was talking the whole time. Yeah, so that's why in a roundabout way I favor IRL interactions over the internet.